I want to explain to you the difference between a good photographer and a great photographer. And this really depends where you're coming from. For you, it might be an average and a good, a bad and an okay, whatever it may be. But there's a key difference. And this is coming from the perspective of someone who works in the industry and someone who more recently is working as an agent as well, which means I'm looking for photographers that I can help with their careers. And in order for me to invest my time in them, they have to be at a certain standard. And it turns out there's not many of them. So what is this difference? I've looked at thousands of books over the last few weeks. And when I say books, that's portfolios, websites, Instagram accounts. I have been hunting for photographers to sign, and it has not been easy. But there is a key difference between those who do get signed and those who don't. And I want to go through it with you so you can make sure that you're focusing on the right things if you want a career in commercial photography. Now, before we dive too far into this, commercial photography is a very old-fashioned business. It works in the way it always has done. There's the art buyer who comes to the agent, and there's all these little bits in there. It's not just let's go and set up a new business model. It's kind of archaic, which is fine. I like tradition. I like rules. It works for me. And because of that, if you want to be in this world, you kind of have to play by the rules. And the biggest thing in this, the big thing which almost no photographer that I've looked at has got, apart from those I've signed, is original work. It doesn't matter if you don't have a big client list. It doesn't matter millions about where you're based in the world. Yes, I'd rather you be in London, but it's not the end of the world. I've actually signed somebody out of London. But what really matters is that your work doesn't look like anybody else's, or at least you're the person who started your look. You need to have something about you that nobody else has. So if you're looking at lighting setups, editing presets, anything off the peg, you don't stand a chance. Nobody's going to want that because it's not original. You need to be looking at everything from a completely fresh sheet of paper. You need to go, what is it that I am? And I've talked about this before. I've got a whole workshop on this called How to Build a Commercially Viable Body of Work. And I think it's probably the most overlooked workshop because it's not sexy, but it's probably the workshop that gets the most results. And understanding this and getting it right is so important because the difference isn't, do you understand tech? The difference isn't, do you have great images? It's, do you have great images that are original? It's very difficult to be the best at something, but it's not so difficult to be different. You could shoot what I do, and trying to be better than me is very hard because it's just difficult because it's what I do. But if you do it differently to me, you're at least different. Likewise, if I want to do some new work and I try and copy somebody, I'm never going to do it as good as the original person because that's their essence in that work. But if I do it differently, that's better. Having that original work and that thing which is just completely yours, the reason it's so good and the reason it matters so much is because of this. No company who has millions of pounds for marketing each year wants some repetitive, drab advert. No creative director who's being paid a fortune by this company wants to commission somebody who just does commercial work. They want an artist. They want someone with a true voice. And now, of course, because people like me who do this sort of work, it's not for everybody. We don't do generic work. We do very specific work. We don't get many bookings, but when we do, the payoff is big. It also allows us to do exactly what we want to do for our creativity, rather than having to go, well, I really need some shots of exploding bottles. I need some shots of drips. No, none of that nonsense. We're not trying to please the middle of the road clients. We want to get the top clients, and we must have original work. And as a really quick thing, if you can get this, you may not need to do the whole workshop, but if not, then dive in there. You need to be able to describe your work. My about section on my website is very important to me. Every time I do a test shoot, I make sure I read it first and go, are we still doing the same thing? Are we still working towards it? And of course, you can change over time. You don't have to go, well, today I'm doing this and that's it forever. Sometimes you go, well, do you know what? I've changed my opinion. But is the work describable in the way that I can describe my work? I do bold and graphic, childlike images. That's what I do. It's bold, it's graphic, it's childlike. I work with everyday objects, everyday items, everyday food, everyday drink, everyday products. I'm not the fancy photographer doing like Michelin star restaurants. I'm not doing whatever it is. I have a very particular standpoint, and that is my work. And when people want it, they know it's exactly me that they want. And the ideal scenario, which happens to us a few times each year, is when different ad agencies all approach us because they know that I am the person for that job. If we get 3 ad agencies who are all fighting for this contract going, Scott, could you give us a brief on this? Not a brief, get my words out. Scott, could you give us some sort of treatment for this so we can pitch it? And they all come to me. I'm like, brilliant. I am exactly the photographer they want. And that's perfect. That is the dream client. So if you do want to come into this world of photography and you want to be at the higher end of it, you need to have original work. You need to think, what is it that I am? Who am I? So for me, I come from a very working class background, grew up on a council estate, panda pop and a packet of crisps down the pub on a Friday night. That's my childhood. And because of that, I understand junk food, I understand fast food, I understand food that isn't expensive. And then my childhood was very colourful. And using those colours and those subject matters to portray it in a way that I enjoy, which is very minimalist, very pop art, that gives me my style of work. And that's what you need to go and do. Not what I do, but what is you. And a lot of it takes a lot of soul searching, a lot of thinking time. It's not the sort of thing you can all go and go, yes, got it, let me go and work that out quickly and we'll crack on tomorrow. It took me 10 years to get here. So don't feel rushed. Don't feel that you've got to get it sorted quickly. Some people, however, they come into photography and they go, I've got this thing, I need a medium to put it out there. And those people are very successful very quickly. I wish I was one of them, but I wasn't. I came into photography and then worked out what to do with it. Generally speaking, the better photographers come into photography because it's the medium they're trying to find to portray what they're already looking to do. I hope that's of use to you. I hope somebody out there has got a light bulb moment. And yeah, I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.